late Mr. Aditya Vikram Birla, a leader who set the foundation for the Aditya Birla Group to become a global powerhouse. Over the past 25 years, the program has impacted countless lives, nurturing brilliant young minds from the nation's top institutions and empowering them to realize their highest potential. Now, as we begin the night, we are about to witness a performance that captures the heart of the Aditya Birla Scholarship Programme. Thoughtfully crafted to celebrate the values and aspirations of this initiative, the opening act embodies the legacy of excellence and inspiration that has guided various scholars over the years. It celebrates 25 years of the scholarship program, acknowledging its role in shaping future leaders and scholars. Through this performance, we honor the light of knowledge that has illuminated paths for generations and contributed to the growth and progress of our nation. With that, ladies and gentlemen, first up, thank you all so much for so graciously being here, and let us warmly welcome them with a big round of applause.
For excellence is the one where you sprint against yourself, endeavor to outperform, raise the bar time after time. Excellence is an ever-moving target. It is the responsibility of every generation to leave behind a safer, superior, more enlightened world than the one that they inherit. When future generations look back upon us,
support your dreams here on earth. You shine brighter the more it gets dark, illuminating the path. All across the world we will march. आग है मुझ में कहीं थोड़ी सुधा मैं चल गया सूरज को मैं निकल गया रूबरू रोशनी रूबरू रोशनी है धुआं छटा खुला गगन मेरा नई डगर नया सफर मेरा जो बन सके तू हम सफर मेरा नजर मिला जरा धुआं छटा खुला गगन मेरा नई डगर नया सफर मेरा जो बन सके तू हम सफर मेरा नजर मिला जरा आँखियों से झगड़ रही है रो मेरी अब मशालों से बढ़ रही है रो मेरी नामो निशान रहे ना रहे ये कारवां रहे ना रहे उजाले में पी गया रोशन हुआ जी गया अब दिल से कहे रूबरू रोशनी रूबरू रोशनी रोशनी है
As they say, giving is true having. The teachings of the Buddha tell us that thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and yet the life of that candle will not be shortened.
A big thank you to this wonderful and talented group and this wonderful, stunning act setting the stage for an evening of knowledge and sharing. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed. And it is my privilege to introduce the man who has carried forward the legacy of the Aditya Birla Group with unwavering commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, under the leadership of Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, the legacy has evolved to not only drive business excellence, but to also shape lives and inspire positive change across society. His dedication to meaningful progress has propelled the group's impact far beyond just business, enriching countless lives and nurturing future leaders who carry forward the values and the ideals set by our esteemed founder. With great pleasure, let us now welcome on stage Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla for the inaugural address.
Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, Mrs. Kyoko Jaishankar, Professor Michael Sandel, our special guests for this evening, our Aditya Birla scholars across 25 years, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Jaishankar, for taking the time out from your busy schedule and all the very significant things that you're doing to be with us this evening. Just a few days ago, I checked with my team as to how they managed to have 18 distinguished people turning up for a program on a Sunday, and then it struck me that the draw was Dr. Jaishankar, our chief guest. Your presence, sir, amplifies the significance of this gathering, a celebration of shared achievements, lasting impact, and a tribute to a remarkable legacy that continues to inspire. To truly appreciate how far we have come, let me take you back 60 years to the year 1964. Picture the India of 1964, shackled by the license Raj, grappling with war's lingering shadows, and haunted by the spectre of famine. This was a time when hope clashed with hardship and ambition with austerity. This was the India that my father, Aditya Vikram Birla, returned to after completing his studies at MIT. In a country still finding its footing, he dared to dream of taking India to the world, a dream rooted in India's untapped potential. This was an extraordinarily bold idea at a time when no other Indian entrepreneur even thought of going global. A few years later, in 1969, just as the US space program broke new ground, my father took his own moonshot. He made a pioneering foray into Thailand and then across Southeast Asia, the first global venture by any Indian industrialist. And this was 22 years before globalization even entered our lexicon. He laid the foundation for what is now a $100 billion plus global conglomerate, creating a pathway for Indian businesses to stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's best. His vision was about championing an ethos of courage, dynamism, and above all, a belief in the power of ordinary people to do extraordinary things. His belief was not just a vague ideal, it was the very foundation of his life's work. In many ways, this very belief became the inspiration behind the Aditya Birla Scholarship, which we established in his memory 25 years ago. I wanted to honor not just my father's legacy, but also the spirit of ambition and extraordinary determination that defines India. It has always been my conviction that high-quality education plays a transformative role in shaping effective leaders and change-makers. With this scholarship program, we were driven by the ambition to create a cadre of hand-picked leaders who would excel in India and also represent our country abroad. The scholarship was, after all, about nurturing individuals with exceptional potential, scholars who could become ambassadors of Indian talent, symbols of academic and professional excellence, and flag bearers of our nation's promise. And I've had the privilege of witnessing this vision come to life year after year. From the very first scholar to our 781st scholar today, each one of our scholars embodies the vision that sparked this journey. Over this span of time, our exceptional internal team, guided by my mother, Mrs. Rajeshri Birla, and led by Dr. Pragnya Ram, have evaluated over 10,000 applications. And with every batch, they have raised the bar. The jury every year, comprising a galaxy of stars from diverse fields, some of whom are here with us today, meticulously evaluates candidates, looking for those who demonstrate a desire to go above and beyond, and those who are most likely to create an impact. Today, we are proud to have 781 scholars on our roster, including 300 distinguished individuals who are founders, corporate leaders, professionals in the consulting and private equity fields, social entrepreneurs, bureaucrats, and scientists. From our start in 1999 with just 15 scholars, we now award this prestigious scholarship to 48 students every year, supporting talent in engineering, management, and law. We have partnered with some of India's top institutions, the premier IITs, BITS Pilani, the top IIMs, XLRI, and the leading national law schools. 22 of these world-class institutions have been our trusted partners in this journey. I'm deeply grateful to the leadership of these esteemed institutions, some of whom are here today, for partnering this program and for nurturing the next generation of talent. Even post-grant, the scholarship demands sustained excellence. Over the years, only 11 scholars have been discontinued from the program for not meeting its rigorous standards. This rigorous selection process has obviously yielded the desired outcome and more, and this is borne out by the collective achievements of our scholars. This makes the countless hours invested in this program worth every minute of it. What you, our scholars, have achieved individually and collectively is truly remarkable. You have created ripples of impact that resonate far beyond borders. From MIT to IIT, BCG to Bain, PayPal to Reddit, Amazon to Nykaa, Advent to TPG, Microsoft to Google, you are at the vanguard of innovation across corporations. Think about it, when an Aditya Birla scholar working at Microsoft drives the AI for good agenda forward, India rises. When another pushes the boundaries of biotech, India advances. When an Aditya Birla scholar incubates a social enterprise in a remote corner of our country, India reaches further. When one of them advises global CEOs from India, India's wisdom echoes. When one teaches at any Ivy League university, India's influence spreads far and wide. And when an Indian Aditya Birla scholar serves at the Indian Embassy in Paris as an IFS officer, India speaks with authority. For me, the true impact came a few circle when a few years ago, a scholar from the inaugural batch, Sumit Narang, sat across the table to negotiate the acquisition of our grocery retail business, and in some ways it was a striking indicator of the far-reaching influence of this journey. You, as scholars, have taken what was a great opportunity and transformed it into a source of immense value through your achievements. A scholarship at the end of the day is only an extended opportunity, but its worth, its true legacy is carved by those who embody it. You are that legacy, you are the stars, and you are here because you represent the very best. Let's give our scholars across 25 years, the role models and the rising stars, a big round of applause. I'm personally proud, humbled, and grateful to witness your impact. It is proof that investment in talent is what ultimately shapes the future, and that was a foundational principle on which my father built his businesses. In many ways, the Aditya Birla Scholarship, you would agree, is a microcosm of India's immense talent, abundant and outstanding, ready to serve both the nation and the world. With this scholarship, I believe we have created a cadre of globally experienced Indians who have been a part of the growth journey of the best firms and institutions globally, and therefore they are now placed to help shape similar transitions and growth journeys for young Indian firms as well. What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter whether you're in Mountain View or Cupertino, Seoul or Siliguri, you can still find a way to contribute to India and our moment. Today I recall my early visits to campuses for pre-placement talks. Students eager to take photographs but hesitant to choose an Indian business house over a multinational. 25 years later, that narrative has shifted dramatically, reflecting a new era of confidence and aspiration in today's Indian corporate landscape. The India of today is far removed from where we were 25 years ago. We are a far more confident nation, implicitly counted as amongst the most consequential economies in the world. Indian businesses are not shying away from making audacious global bets even in an uncertain global environment. For example, the Aditya Birla Group, as some might know, is India's largest investor in the US across sectors, with investments exceeding $15 billion and manufacturing operations in 20 locations across 15 states. In fact, currently we are investing $4 billion in a single greenfield project in Bay Minette in Alabama. This is the largest investment ever made in an aluminum rolling mill in the US. And in some ways, this is a marker of the increasing global heft of Indian corporations. Simultaneously, global corporations recognize that India is now not just another consumer market, but it is potentially a critical growth of engine to improve their global fortunes. For instance, the market cap of Suzuki India's business is double that of its global parent, whereas it was just about half over a decade or so ago. In some ways, our scholarship journey embodies the real idea of India, an India that dares to dream audaciously, an India where talent meets opportunity like never before, an India that leads with confidence, an India that is a significant part of the global narrative, an India that is in many ways a pioneer. Our chief guest today too is a pioneer in every sense. He stands as the only individual to have held both the positions of Foreign Secretary and Foreign Minister. For over 3 decades, in one way or another, he has shaped nearly every major geopolitical milestone, from the recent BRICS summit to the Indo-US nuclear deal forged nearly 2 decades ago. His intellect and sharp wit have made him a sensation on social media, where his reels on India's strategic choices consistently go viral. Through his words and his actions, he has made 1.4 billion Indians see that diplomacy goes beyond just handshakes and signed agreements. It's about making tough choices. It's about making tough choices, and then even more importantly, about owning those choices. It's about what is spoken and about what remains unsaid. And above all, it's about recognizing that national interest can never be subservient to virtue signaling. Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar is the voice of a confident India. He speaks the language of a nation that has come into its own. And speaking of languages, he knows quite a few: English, Hindi, Tamil, Russian, Japanese, Mandarin, and even a touch of Hungarian. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. An ace diplomat, a strategic thinker, a prolific writer, and a steadfast voice for India on the global stage. Thank you once again, sir, for joining this milestone program this evening. I'm confident that your insights and your thoughts will enrich our community of scholars and provide them with perspectives like no one else can. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome Professor Michael Sandel, a philosopher who challenges us to question our values and beliefs in a world that's often divided. Professor Sandel helps to bridge gaps, to explore what justice, ethics, and fairness mean in our societies. So tonight we are honored to have both these visionaries guiding us in the art of courageous thinking. Before I conclude, I would like to thank our scholars once again for the impact that you have created and for living up to the promise of this program. I hope that during the course of this evening you will find threads that connect you with one another, that you will recognize the shared drive, the common ambitions, and I hope that these connections inspire you to reach even higher, to achieve even more, and to keep pushing further the boundaries. And in time, may your outstanding individual contributions converge. May you build a fraternity that becomes an unstoppable force for good, a force that shapes the future, and a force that carries forward an incredible legacy. That would have made my father very proud. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Birla, for your thought-provoking address, and it was supremely inspiring. Your words tonight have reinforced the values of leadership and the importance of empowering the next generation to build a better tomorrow. We now move on to a very special moment of the evening, the scholarships segment. Now, over the last 25 years, the Aditya Birla Scholarship has been awarded to exceptional individuals who have not only demonstrated academic brilliance, but have also shown a commitment to leadership, integrity, and a vision for a better future. We are privileged to have with us today some of these outstanding scholars who have contributed to excelling and inspiring everyone in their respective fields. Let us now welcome some of them onto the stage today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 10 of these incredible scholars with us here tonight. Sharik Rizvi, EVP, Reddit. Could we please have you on stage? Prashant Sareen, Senior Partner, Bain. Gaurav Chakrabarti, Engineering Leadership at Meta. Sumit Narang, Founder and MD, Samara Capital. Abhishek Mishra, Head of Structuring, HSBC. Kunal Datta, Founder, Psychor. Sanchit Arora, Director of Machine Learning, Possible Finance. Payal Agarwal, ex-GM Abbott, India SEA and Korea. Vivek Mohan, MD, TPG Capital. Akansha Singh, Head Airports and Places, Uber India and South Asia. What a wonderful collection of super achievers. Thank you all so much for being here. It's awesome having you all here. This evening, we also, of course, have the distinguished honor of having Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, as part of our gathering. A visionary leader and one of the most influential voices of New India, Dr. S. Jaishankar brings with him an extraordinary depth of knowledge and experience in global diplomacy. His presence enriches our conversation tonight and adding a profound and timely perspective to our understanding of the complex geopolitical landscape. So once again, thank you for being here, sir. And before we move forward, actually, I'm going to come and ask you guys a few questions because I'm very curious. I would love to spend hours chatting with you all, but unfortunately, we have very little time. So I'm just going to pop in and ask you lots of questions that are playing on my mind.
That's a bass voice. Okay, so thank you all once again for being here. I'm just reflecting on your journey. Do you all remember your interview experience? Because now you all are super achievers, but do you remember the day you guys went for an interview? And did any of you think that, oh, this did not go well at all? I should have said something else. So anyone, feel free to just jump in, and if there's any anecdote that you think you could narrate, it would be great fun.
I'll go first. Please. I still remember that day. It was a very special day in my life. I was 19 years old. I was a freshie. I was a freshman at IIT Bombay. This was 1999, so it was the inaugural batch of the scholarship family. We got shortlisted from our campuses, and we were all together, the batch of 99, at the Taj Hotel near the Gateway of India. And I can promise you I was extremely nervous. I was very nervous. And when my name was finally announced, it was a very special moment for me. It was a very special moment for me that day, and it remains a very special moment for me today. And I will close it out by saying that I still remember I took the elevator down the Taj to go to a phone booth and call my two parents who are actually here in the crowd today.
Where are they?
They are right there.
It's lovely to have you both here. Thank you so much for being here.
So I gave them a phone call and I said, hey, Papa, Mama, I got the scholarship.
Wow.
And it was a truly special moment for me. This was a time when the cell phones were rare.
And everyone screamed on STD booths.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I'm extremely grateful that I was made a part of this very special family. And I will always be extremely grateful for that.
Thank you so much. What an exciting journey. Did anyone think that they messed it up very badly?
Yeah, maybe I can go at this. So our interview panel this was 2006. Harsha Bogle was on the panel.
Okay.
And when I was asked about my favorite cricketer, I went with Sehwag, and he was like, "But where is the technique, and where is your thinking about the right way to go about building business. Sehwag is out there hitting it. Is that how you will approach your career in investing? Right? And then I had to walk back and explain how, Sehwag knew what he was doing and he was playing the shots. But it was not a very comfortable interview. It did make me sweat for a while as to why I was not getting it right. I was very happy that when they finally did announce, and I did catch up with him later, and he said that he secretly liked Sehwag as well, so that worked.
Oh, well done. Well done. Proud of you. I also want to know, okay, where's Sumit? Yeah. Hi, Sumit. You have a very interesting story. Apparently, and Mr. Birla had mentioned it earlier, he spoke about a deal that you struck for the grocery retail business. So, this is amazing. You win a scholarship, then you come back and you try to strike a deal. What was that experience like, negotiating a deal, and how hard was it to negotiate the deal? And what had you prepped then?
No, I think more than negotiation, I think there was a roadblock that I got stuck with where we were not getting exclusivity to work on the deal. And I think using the Aditya Birla Scholar card really helped. And Mr. Birla was very kind that, okay, we'll give you 60 days. If you make it happen, then it's fine. So I think that special bond of being part of the community played a big role in terms of, creating that trustworthy relationship and then finally making it happen for both sides.
I love the way one thing just leads to the other. Yes, round of applause. Well done. I'm also curious, many of you here are flag bearers of Indian talent abroad. So how do you see India and Indians now on a global scale? Because things have evolved and changed. The perspective people have about us has changed completely, and that doesn't have to be super leaders like you all. The regular perception has changed dramatically. So what do you guys feel about that? How have you seen the changes?
I'll give you one small example over 25 years now. When my vintage Indians went to Bay Area, at a golf course, they would be standing around the table and trying to break into the club. Right. Now, I think a bunch of white Americans stand around and say, can I also sit and have tandoori chicken? So I think the credibility of Indian diaspora last 25 years has materially increased, especially I think on the technology side. Now we have to make sure that we spread it across other industries as well.
Absolutely.
I want to add here, working in a global corporation like Uber, earlier a lot of people from India wanted to go abroad, and right now when I go for global summits, it's like I'm in India, I choose to be in India, I'm proud to be in India, and global corporations are moving large part of the teams in India, product teams, tech teams, and you see global leaders saying, I want to go to India. It's super exciting, it's super energizing, so it seems like the trend is reversed.
Wonderful. Yes, sir.
I want to add a couple of things from banking, which is very diverse, has had Indians for a couple of decades now. I was interviewing somebody at Standard Chartered a couple of years ago, and this is an INSEAD graduate, so never been in India, never visited India. And when I asked them if they had questions, one of the two questions they had is, if I join Standard Chartered, I've heard you're big in Asia, will I get the chance to work in India? It was the first time I came across that.
That's a massive shift. Yes, sir.
I'll probably go back to your previous question around when did you think it didn't go well, and I didn't think it went.
Now you have decided to
at all. Yeah, I was like, should I share
yes,
it?
please.
It's a bit embarrassing. So what happened is, all of us, first time in 5 stars for most of us, pretty much. Yeah?
Absolutely.
You get in. I had come out from IIT Bombay. I had this 180 rupees. A shirt, I gave it for ironing, the bill was 260 rupees. So I was like, okay, this is expensive. I go into the breakfast meeting, meet with Dr. Ram, come into the lift, and there was 6 of us from IIM Calcutta. And I just said, I feel like jumping like joy. And someone said, what does that mean? And I jumped for joy in the elevator. And then I told everyone, why don't you show me what it feels like? So I made everyone jump. And at the corner of my eye, I could see a guy standing there, pretending not to notice, and we were going up the elevator, and struck me, I hope this guy is not one of the judges. And I was like, he knows this guy is really not serious about life, not serious about work. And as it turned out, we had this IIT and IIM sort of, judgment panel. I go up, I'm praying to God. I'm like, hey, I'm a Nastic, but I'm like, God, for the first time in life, I believe in you, And then, all through, we wait for the judges come in, and I ask everyone who are the 3 judges, someone points to them, I'm like, hey, this is cool. None of them is, someone who was standing on the lift. And then this guy comes in, who was a part of the, sort of silent person in the lift, and I see him, and I'm like, who's this? He said, he's one of the judges. I said, but you just told me he's not one of the judges. He said, I said that for the IIT panel. Oh. He is one of the judges for the IIM panel. I was like, could I do any worse? But fortunately, Dr. Nishit Desai, if I remember correctly, was very, very sensible. We didn't discuss about the elevator jumps at all. And yeah, I was really surprised. There were 9 people announced before me. I was pretty sure I was not going to be the 10th one. He was very gracious to make me the 10th one. So yeah, remember that.
Did you jump for joy after finding out?
Well, you'll have to know back.
All right. I have heaps of questions for you all, but I'm down to my last because of time constraints. I'm very curious. When you win a scholarship, it's such a beautiful thing. Not everybody can afford things. You further stuff. Now you all are at a point where you're mentors to people. You meet people from various different walks of life. How do you think it also sets the tone to pay it forward? Not necessarily monetarily only, but with your time, with seeing other people who may be struggling in certain aspects. How do you think it changed you, even your personalities at some level in life and at work?
Sure. I really believe that the stories of our life shape us, and this is a pretty pivotal moment in our lives. It's fascinating how it comes about, because you take an entrance examination, you get selected, you think you're the cat's whiskers, you've arrived, and then you show up on campus, and you look around, and everyone is smarter than you. And so you go through this process of feeling like an imposter, until you get an opportunity to apply for the Aditya Birla Scholarship. Then fortunately you get it. And then you know that regardless of whatever happens, you can always look back at this moment, this particular moment, as a pivotal moment where there was rigorous process, there was a group of very highly qualified judges that selected you. And that gives you that spark, that confidence, that energy. And now, as I look back, I've had the opportunity of being on the panel for the last 5 years and playing a small role in building this community. There's an opportunity really to pay this forward and build something that doesn't just focus on individual brilliance, but really brings the power of the community and our collective brilliance to fore. And hopefully the next 25 years will see not just the individual brilliance of each one of us on the stage and around the world, but teams coming together to really forge a different path.
That's so beautifully explained. Here's to carrying each other forward. Yes, sir.
I'd like to add something. So I'm Gaurav, inaugural batch. You talked about the feeling, and I remember apart from just the pride in parents and when we call the cutout, and how my grandfather, who's passed away, but he shared with me that confidence helped me take a lot of decisions, knowing that the people believe in me, knowing almost a responsibility to pursue excellence. The other part is the others who are going through the same journey.
Right.
Slowly, I found nowadays a lot of my day goes in finding people who are pursuing excellence, and a lot of times they don't know the right question. They don't know whether the risk they're taking is going to be worth it. And spending the time to be a mentor for them. It goes back to the force for good. I think it's one of the part of the vision. We can be a much bigger force for good through them. Yeah, so it's been an anchoring in my work since then.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I'd like to share, I don't know if this was true for other batches, but for our batch, each of us received a copy of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And for me, as a fresh engineering student, I'm more used to books with equations like physics and math, so it was a very different kind of book. But it changed my perspective a lot. It introduced me to ideas on how to be effective and how to add value to the world at a much, say, earlier time in my life than maybe I would have otherwise. And as I transitioned to being a leader, it became an important part of me to how to get other people to be effective as well. How can I pass on that, say, learning which happened to me through the Aditya Birla group to new people that are, say, building on my team and starting on their careers?
Totally. Yes, ma'am.
So, I would like to share a very, very emotional thing about the entire Aditya Birla scholarship, which I will go back to the previous question as well. So, I come from a very conservative Marwadi family, and my parents, I was probably the first girl who stepped out for education. There were a lot of other achievements probably I would have had, but I would want to state this one, that Aditya Birla Group was known to my parents, and when I informed them that I am a scholar for Aditya Birla, I think till date that's the proudest moment they have. And in fact, in my house till today, my mother has that picture of Mrs. Birla giving the award to me that night, and that really makes this most important. And I would like to add here as well, like, as I said, I come from a family where girls were probably not given the right kind of opportunity, etc. And what this scholarship instilled in me is a confidence to enable girls to achieve any height in life. So I have worked across organizations, consulting, corporate, etc. And one of the things, a small step from my side is that I have been a strong, strong champion for diversity. So there have been women, and we see again in this room as well. So I believe that there are some biases in organizations. I believe there are some opportunities which needed to be provided to women. And across my working life, I have always believed that we need to provide the right opportunity as per the ethos of Aditya Birla Scholarship. And I have really seen women come out and shine. So that's been my small contribution after being an Aditya Birla Scholar.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And thank you all so much for speaking with me. And now we have a wonderful segment which I'm most excited about, as our scholars here on stage interact with Dr. S. Jaishankar. And this is going to be such a wonderful chat. I'm going to be a fly on the wall and enjoy this. Thank you all so much. And over to you, sir.
So I get to take your role now?
Yes,
okay. First of all, thank you all, and I'm sure your families and all of you must be proud of yourselves. So let me start with the gentleman right on. I'm also a Sehwag person. Okay, to me, a high risk, high reward kind of management style, performance style. Today, if you would be asked by Harsha Bhogle the same question, would you still give the same answer? Would you have somebody else in mind?
Yeah, I think Sehwag represented such a drastic departure from every established norm of what it takes to be an opener, what it takes to be a successful cricketer, the line and the length, and know where your off stump is. And I think that really what attracted me to his style. If I were to think today as to who represents that kind of an approach to cricket, it actually wouldn't be a batsman, it would be the bowler, it would be Bumrah. Because at some level he's broken every imaginable norm of what it means to be a fast bowler, and he's been remarkably successful. And the aggression is there, it's just not in the same nonchalant manner as Sehwag is, but I think he represents the best of what can be one is just purely focused on excellence and ignores all the other noise.
Well, I was really hoping you'd give that answer. If our roles were reversed, I would have given that answer.
Yeah, brilliant.
But to all of you, I have actually a question, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. Many of you live outside India. Many of you deal with people and companies, corporates outside India. I'd be very interested, when you started off maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what, not just the tandoori chicken, okay? Beyond that, what's been, your sense of that, how the world perceives India? Because that is today going to be extremely crucial for us.
It's a wonderful question after I
had the opportunity at IIM Calcutta. I actually went off to the UK to study at Oxford. I remember in 2001 to 3, we were very much still called a developing country. The term BRICS had not yet come into popular lexicon. It was founded at Goldman Sachs, I think, in 2003. And any news about India that I would crave as a student would often be, you'd flip the pages of The Guardian and you'd look at something on page 6 or page 8. It'd be a couple of inches wide, it'd be 4 or 5 inches deep. And it would usually talk about some tragedy in India. There wasn't really much other news the global press had to report about us. And I fast forward from then until about 2015 to 2019 when I was working in the Bay Area. And you could already see the signs of this new and emergent India. I mean, obviously Silicon Valley is a place where we have some of the best talent around the world. But you have Indian diaspora that plays such a powerful role. And you could see that the vocabulary had completely changed. To today, when you get the opportunity to travel, it's a very different conversation that we have about India. I was in the UK last week. It was interesting to see the results of the US elections and have the opportunity to speak with colleagues from all over the world. It was fascinating when we talked about India. They said, you've navigated yourself to a place that almost regardless of which side the election falls, and India will end up being in a winning place. And I believe that after many years of having studied and working abroad, there's never been a better time to be an Indian in India. And I think it's just remarkable.
Let me add something. I think there are two phrases of the question: how the world perceives India and how the world perceives people of Indian origin. I can speak to the second one. I have been a part of two industries. One is like machine learning based trading, also known as high frequency trading, where Indians have like created the field. I was fortunate to be on a few of them, but now, you know, we have invented industries that not only employ thousands of people, including in India, but also have changed the way finance works globally. In machine learning that powers big tech, not just in terms of CEOs or executives, but also the innovation that powers industry. A lot of it you can trace to people of Indian origin. The perception is one of innovation, hard work, strong ethics, responsible. Yeah.
I want to add that India's role in the global portfolio of a lot of MNCs today is that of growth, growth and growth. So for example, in my company, if the global portfolio is growing at X, India is growing at 2X, and there's a lot of valuation on what is the potential. So even if in terms of absolute value or the revenue we are lower as compared to some of the Western geographies, it's the volume or the number of, transactions which are happening, which are, if not the largest, maybe the second or the third largest. So by that virtue, India is a star market, and not just in my company, but from my conversations in almost all companies. And hence, a lot of people are putting money where their mind is, and that's India. So that's how I see India in the global portfolio. Growth, growth and growth.
If I can go next, Dr. Jaishankar. So first I'll start with a confession. I was never a Sehwag guy. You can call me extremely old-fashioned. I have always been a Kapil Dev guy, and the reason is because
that's supposed to be my generation.
And the reason is, so growing up, that's the feeling that the game is not done until Kapil is still to come at number 6. That kind of that was, that was always at the back of your mind, that we are still in play. On the more serious note, I've lived in the Silicon Valley now for 21 years, and we are everywhere. I mean, we are starting companies, we are investing in startups, and it feels like the only thing that can limit us is our own imagination. And I think, that is really true.
I'll add a little bit. So I used to work in the healthcare medical devices industry. And a very quick thing, like a decade back when the APAC leaders and the global leaders would talk about India, they would only talk about low cost, poor quality kind of products. It's a Me Too product kind of a thing. But I think the proud moment for me was that last 2-3 years, everyone has been talking about the quality of products which are coming out. In fact, they ask us to map all the Indian players, what is their product pipeline. I think this is a big shift, and being an Indian, a hardcore Indian, I think what our Prime Minister had rolled out in terms of Make in India, that is having a real impact, because global companies are now feeling threatened by the products which are manufactured in India, and I really saw it in the last 2-3 years.
I'll keep it very quick. 2 anecdotes came to mind, sir, when you asked that question. One is about Indians abroad. And there was a time where I used to get requests from East Asian managing director candidates in the bank I was at that point, where I had just made MD. And there was a lot of asks for advice, a lot of requests for mentorship. But the one thing I saw, 2 or 3 conversations very quickly became about how do you guys do so well in banking? And it wasn't quite the personal one-on-one advice that I thought they wanted, and it was a bit of stereotyping, but I was glad to see that stereotyping. The second thing is I met 5 years ago now, a CFO of a major British manufacturing firm. We went over something technical, very smart person, probably understood it better than I explained it. And then he started talking about my background, and after a few minutes of chit-chat, he asked me, so why aren't you back in India? And I'd like to tell him now I'm not in touch, that I am actually back in India just very recently.
One thing over the last, again, few decades, I think the perception of a confident India, which is willing to engage, listen, but do what India believes is right and logical and in everyone's best interest, I think that perception has materially changed. So I'll just give a anecdote, because when we meet in a very friendly context with friends in Europe and US in a private setting, we don't have to be politically correct, and we can speak our mind. So, you know, with the Canada issue in between, a very dear friend of mine, Jewish in New York, from a family of, power, he was saying, what is this India-Canada issue? What's your view? So I said, one, I don't know the specifics, but I can tell we need to learn from American intelligence. When a job needs to be done, it has to be done the right way. So I think in a private, friendly setting, at least I think people think it's a confident India. Whatever their views are, they are willing to, do the right and logical thing in everyone's interest.
Yeah, just slightly different, more an Asian perspective. When I joined the private equity industry about 15 years ago, the default advice you got from a career perspective was you start in India, then very quickly try to move to Hong Kong or Singapore, and then after that try to move to London or Boston. And that's the only path you have. This is not a place where you can really build a very long career. And flip that to today, the heads of Asia of the largest private equity funds, you pick your TPG, Blackstone, KKR, Warburg, they're all sitting here in Bombay. And the central gravity has very clearly shifted. What this means is, as we think about the global, the limited partners, the sovereign wealth funds and the endowment funds, and when they come to India, the perception of this being, a small part of the broader Asia story is flipped to India being the central, this very central core of Asia. And it also helps that, whenever we get our partners over from the US and we show them how UPI works, their minds are blown, right? I mean, they can't transfer money on weekends, and every time it costs them $20, $30. But you show them UPI, and more recently we showed them quick commerce. They had missed a charger, and the fact that it was there in 15 minutes blew them away. So I think they're all getting a very different view of India now as the central of the story, and not what was and also ran before. So,
well, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful interactive session. We'd love to hear so much more, but we are super tight on time. So thank you to our distinguished scholars and Dr. S. Jaishankar for the insightful contributions shared with us thus far. It is an honor to witness such a profound exchange of ideas reflecting the values of leadership, intellectual curiosity, and societal impact. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I would like to thank our scholars. Could we have a huge round of applause for them? And I request you all to please take your seat. Thank you for such wonderful stories and insightful contributions through the course of the afternoon. Now, to further enrich this evening, it is my honor to invite Minister of External Affairs of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, onto the stage for his keynote address. But in just a minute, because he is no ordinary foreign minister, hence we have personally curated our short film because we love him so much. So here is a short film on the subtle art of being Dr. S. Jaishankar. Take a look.
We have only one Dr. Jaishankar. How in future we can have at least 5 times Dr. Jaishankar?
They don't need answers. They know what keeps me awake at night. It's a mix of coffee and jet lag.
One person you wish to have dinner with, King John Woo or George Soros?
This is Navratri, I'm fasting. The country has already seen after 5 years how much of a difference there is today in the ground situation in Jammu and Kashmir. That part is integrated. There is the other part. So watch part 2. Since I'm a courteous and civil person, I will behave myself accordingly. This is the construct you are trying to impose on me, and I don't accept it.
We could base Security Council membership on ICC test rankings.
I think the better solution would be to leave it to BCCI. 10 years ago, we were the 11th largest economy in the world. I find it embarrassing to tell others that we are going to overtake them and will be third soon. I have 2.5 million followers and I like them. एक बार एक अरब प्रेसिडेंट ने मेरे से पूछा, हमारे यहाँ भी बहुत लीकेज होता है, तो आप कैसे टैकल करते हैं? तो मैंने उनको समझाया कि हमारे यहाँ एक तो डिजिटल गवर्नेंस है, वो टेक्नोलॉजी तो हम आपको दे सकते हैं, हमारे यहाँ मोदी जी भी हैं, वो हम आपको नहीं दे सकते. सबको जवानी अच्छी लगती है. Life is trial and error and you have to find out what it is you want to do. But I can only give you one advice after so many years. Do what you like to. If you like something, you will be good at it. Then you will not even think of it as work.
Round of applause, and without further ado, I'd like to now invite on stage our keynote speaker, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause.
Shri Kumar Mangalam Birla ji, Srimati Rajshri Birla ji, Professor Michael Sandel, Aditya Birla Scholars, distinguished guests. It's a great pleasure to join you all as we mark the Silver Jubilee of the Aditya Birla, Srimati Rajshri Birla ji, Professor Michael Sandel, Aditya Birla Scholars, distinguished guests. It's a great pleasure to join you all as we mark the Silver Jubilee of the Aditya Birla Scholarships Programme. This initiative is a testimony to a visionary entrepreneur who was way ahead of his contemporaries in globalizing India's economic footprint. His endeavors spread from Southeast Asia to the Middle East and has been further developed thereafter. It spanned a range of domains from textiles and edible oil to metals and carbon black. But the common thread was realizing opportunities abroad to strengthen India at home. It is but appropriate that on this occasion we reflect on the continued relevance of globalization to Bharat's journey in the Amrit Kal. The partners in the scholarship program also reflect the strength of this commitment. Harnessing the most prestigious institutions of the nation in management, engineering, and law has its own message. So indeed does the intensity of the competition, and we heard a little bit about it, to become an Aditya Birla Scholar. My congratulations, and indeed my admit and interest in it have grown proportionately. Our exports have increased significantly in the last decade, especially in services. Investments into India have also more than doubled during this period. There is today a perceptible interest in engaging with us, reflected in the steady flow of high-profile visitors and businesses. Our own very appetite to explore the world has also grown, be it in tourism, education, or work possibilities. We see this not just anecdotally, but in fact in the reality that our passport services are increasing year on year by 10%. In all of this, our entrepreneurs have more than kept pace, establishing their presence in societies and regions far away. The world that Aditya Birla ji had foreseen and sought to prepare us for is today upon us. This deeper linkage between the external world and our national endeavors offers us crucial opportunities to accelerate the quest towards Viksit Bharat. In fact, we take it so seriously that I can declare that foreign policy now as fundamentally purposed to advancing national development apart from ensuring national security. The two goals are of course closely linked, as I will explain later. Therefore, much of our diplomacy is dedicated towards promoting exports, attracting investments, sourcing best practices, identifying technologies, and expanding tourism. The cumulative impact is to increase employment opportunities at home. Now, there are different ways of achieving these objectives. The most basic is to promote the Indian brand and strengthen international confidence in partnering with us. Given the diversity of our country, it is necessary to do that at a state level as well. Certainly, it is the business attraction that drives foreign investors and potential projects. But their inclinations are usually strengthened by a favorable enabling environment and a more granular understanding of India's strengths. Technology flows and best practices are also painstaking two-way exercises which require both ends to appreciate its full potential. Similarly, persuading foreign vendors of the attraction of making in India can be an arduous effort. What you often see eventually in India is the outcome of such efforts, and somewhere behind many joint ventures and investments are the contribution of a lot of people who have enabled it. This focus on economic diplomacy has in fact become one of the key changes in our foreign policy in contemporary times. Now, the international situation is also ripe today for more strenuous efforts in that direction. The COVID experience brought home to the world the dangers of depending on a limited geography. It was aggravated by concerns that large production dependencies and market shares can be leveraged for political purposes. As a result, the quest to build more reliable, resilient, and redundant supply chains has assumed salience. Digital sensitivities have further heightened these trends. As we enter the era of AI, who captures, processes, and deploys your data is of utmost importance. Data privacy and cybersecurity are consequently paralleling reliable supply chains as a global priority. That manufacturing and data are also more deeply fused is yet another reality to be taken into account. So in this scenario, India has an opportunity to board the manufacturing bus that we missed to some extent in the past. It is incumbent on us to develop the logistics, the infrastructure, and the business environment to promote greater industrial production. Side by side, we also need the requisite human resources to make this globally viable. These goals have been at the forefront of our national efforts in recent times. Friends, efforts to engage the world and exploit its inherent opportunities have been given a sharper edge by the stresses and fissures of current times. If you recall the COVID experience, do understand that our ability to produce vaccines within the country was very much influenced by the flow of ingredients from multiple sources abroad. Many of them actually faced regulatory constraints, and some even required incentivizing suppliers. Later on, during the Delta variant, obtaining medical oxygen supplies from abroad on a timely basis was equally critical. Or think back about the consequences of the Ukraine conflict. The impact on the fuel and fertilizer markets was immediate and called for special efforts to protect the Indian consumer. And you're all aware of the counter pressures that we faced in that regard. It is not just health or energy security. Even food security can call for diplomatic initiatives. Our diplomatic energies are equally directed, for example, towards the predictable supply, the predictable availability of lentils and edible oils. And of course, when it comes to defense and high technology that are so essential to our national security, developing access to the best options remains our continuing goal. As we now move into a more technology-saturated existence, similar compulsions in respect of critical and emerging technologies as well as critical minerals are now coming into play. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not just our capabilities and consumption that are changing, so too are logistics. Supply chains are partly production, but they are very much routings. The world is still functioning in the post-colonial connectivity grid that was designed for the convenience of the West. As production rebalances globally, there is a growing need for new and efficient pathways of trade. So much so that they have actually today become key in many ways to international collaboration, and I dare say even to international competition. India is realizing two major connectivity initiatives to the West, the IMEC to Europe and Atlantic, and the ISCC to Eurasia. To the east, we are working on a trilateral highway that could eventually extend up to the Pacific. Maritime energy grids and green shipping corridors are examples of new possibilities. Such economics can only be realized through creative policy. So, the world is today increasingly appreciating the Indian story. We may experience it on a daily basis. So it is important to understand what is it that they see has now become different. Obviously, there's no single answer. It could be one of the 75 new airports, the 16 new metros, the broader and longer national highways, the better quality railway journeys, or perhaps bright young people like many of you. At a policy level, perhaps it is making it easier to do business, easing the living of common citizens, and de-bureaucratizing our society. Or for that matter, strengthening civic awareness and improving our human resources development. In my own travels, what I most often hear is the admiration for our embrace of digital practices, and I think some of our young friends who were here on the podium were speaking about it. And of course, associated with it, the implications for governance. So here's a point for you to ponder. The more effectively we transform at home, the greater the interest of the world to engage us. The deeper that engagement, the faster we will modernize. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is a competitive place. And to ensure India's rise, we too must continuously sharpen our instincts. As I emphasized, developing capabilities at home is an essential requirement. Today, it is common in my own domain to speak about comprehensive national power. We no longer measure each other just by military capabilities or political influence, but take into account technology strengths, economic resilience, human creativity, and societal well-being. No nation can truly develop in a unidimensional manner, and large ones in particular, like us, must have some basic self-sufficiency. That is why we speak of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Otherwise, in an era of weaponized economics, we leave ourselves seriously open to vulnerabilities. India currently faces two big challenges on that score. One, the scale of our producers, and two, the limits of our technology. Both are changing with each passing year and are indeed interlinked in many ways. In fact, growing bigger and growing deeper are both sides of the same coin. For Bharat to rise, it must develop deep technology strengths and create the capacity to research, to design, and to innovate. That will only happen when manufacturing expands and the industrial culture strikes deep roots. The India stack, Covaxin, 5G technology, the Tejas aircraft, or the Chandrayaan mission are examples of what we can do once we put our minds to it. But this period of building national capabilities will also require deep deliberation and considered policies if we are to move ahead strongly. After all, we must be safeguarded from unfair competition during that process, especially if they could have a strategic intent. Global engagement cannot be argued on narrow economic merits alone without any regard to its social and national security consequences. Indeed, that is one of the takeaways from recent developments in the United States. The promise of technology is also a prospect that deserves greater attention. In the past, we often only did the reforms we must, leaving out the reforms we could or should. The absence of an ambitious national vision also ensured that there was never a set of clear national goals. Much of our policy prescriptions were a rationalization of these limitations rather than a thought-through, viable, long-term strategy. New technologies that put a premium on talent and creativity can now work in our favor. This world of AI and chips, of electric mobility and batteries, of space and drones is poised to transform life in this decade. We cannot and we should not miss out a second time. It is the younger generation that has to lead this effort, and it can only do so when it is sufficiently global. For those who are now ready to explore life's opportunities, it may also be useful to think about the global workplace. We all know that the sharpest change in the immediate future will be brought about by technology. What we usually underestimate are the equally dramatic shifts that are taking place in the world's demography. At the very moment when demands for services are growing and technology advancements themselves require greater human talent, many societies are actually falling short. This is our opportunity. A better educated, skilled, and confident generation of Indians will have openings that could not be contemplated earlier. In fact, the interest in Indian talent is probably the most frequent theme in my conversations right now with foreign governments and corporates. Anticipating this possibility, we have steadily concluded mobility agreements that ensure better access and fair treatment for our professionals. More than 20 nations are currently covered, with others underway. Friends, the twin realities of more Indians traveling abroad in a world under greater stress also raises its own issues. In recent years, you're all familiar with our rescue operations in Ukraine and Sudan, in Israel and Afghanistan, or would recall those in Nepal and Yemen. Our systems are better geared to help individuals in distress abroad, whether it is a lost passport, an employer's mistreatment, or an accident or an emergency requirement. To a business, we help with market understanding and access. To a student, we counsel crucial do's and don'ts. To professionals, we take up their interests with local authorities. The welfare of Indians abroad is manifestly our priority now. And that is a great encouragement to a globalizing generation. Friends, these are exciting times. They are challenging ones as well. As a country, as a community, as individuals, we have possibilities before us that we could not have thought about earlier. It can be realized only through confidence, through initiative, and obviously through hard work. But in all of that, it is important that we provide the maximum opportunities for our creativity to express itself. It starts from the grassroots and percolates through every level of society. Those of you who today are selected for this prestigious fellowship must appreciate that this is a testimony to your talent as much as it is an exhortation to realize your potential. Just as drops of water make an ocean, a nation is ultimately built by individuals. Each one of you can make a difference and will certainly do with greater awareness of the world and its many possibilities. I thank you for your attention.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have received some questions already, we're going to take a look at those. And sir, what has happened is that we had asked in the beginning, before you arrived, if people could submit a question. You can still do so by scanning the QR code on the screen and share your questions with us. We look forward to a very insightful exchange. And sir, I request you to please be seated as I ask. I've got with me some of the questions that have been sent to us. I'm very excited about them. So here we go. So sir, we've been sent these questions from various people who scanned the QR code. More questions are coming in. But I'd love to start just using the lucky position I'm in to ask you a question that I was going to ask you. Answer across groups in very precise. To know, have you always this person starting out very young? Was this a nervous you who was worried and not as bold and strong with answers or as witty?
I think all of us were always nervous us. I think it grows with, with time. Look, when you first set out in the world, I envy the young people of today. I first traveled on an aircraft when I was 22 years old, because in those days, normal middle-class people couldn't afford to travel by air.
True.
I first went abroad when I got a job in the Indian Foreign Service, because those days, people didn't take holidays abroad. So we knew much less about the world.
Yeah.
And, even about ourselves, the exposure was relatively limited. So, and all of that in some ways reflected on your confidence levels.
Yeah.
But in a way, I was lucky. I first went to Moscow. My second posting was Washington. So when you've done, you've been thrown into big pools, you learn to swim. They are big, deep pools sometimes. I had, bosses who gave you the latitude, the leeway. You learned on the job. I had good colleagues, peer group, or mentors, very important in life. I mean, to me still, there are a few people I remember almost like in any situation, even now, when others would look at me for mentorship, but I still remember my mentors.
Right.
So it grows on you. I mean, there isn't a particular moment, but let me tell you, two things. All of us started down this journey, and I tell people sometimes, we all remember the good moments, like the jumping with joy, even though it was before the result. But sometimes it's also useful to remember, the times you didn't make it, the numbers which were below what you hoped.
True,
So
I think it builds empathy towards others. Thank you so much for that. And with that, I'm going to now read out the questions we've been sent. Here's the first one. How do you see the US presidential election outcome impacting Indo-US ties, especially given Prime Minister Modi's strong personal rapport with President-elect Trump?
What do you mean specially given? I mean, we have it taken care of. So, the Prime Minister was among the first 3 calls, I think, that President Trump took. And look, India, Prime Minister Modi has actually built rapport across multiple presidents. When he first came to DC, Obama was the president, then it was Trump, then it was Biden. So, for him, there's something natural in terms of how he forges those relationships. So, that's helped hugely. And I think, the changes in India have helped as well. I mean, I know today a lot of countries are nervous about the US, okay? Let's be honest about it. We are not one of them.
Right. That's wonderful. That's great news. Lots of smiling faces in the audience. Sir, the next question that was sent in is this one. How do you see the reset in the global power dynamic play out as the balance of power shifts in some ways from the west to the east? And what are the likely intended and unintended consequences?
Look, yes, there is a shift. We are ourselves an example of the shift. If you look at our economic weight, you look at our economic ranking, you look at even Indian corporates, their reach, their presence, Indian professionals, which I spoke about. So no question there is a rebalancing. Okay, and to my mind it was inevitable. It was inevitable because at one level, because once these countries after the colonial period got their independence, they started making their own policy choices, then they were bound to grow. The part which is not inevitable is some grew faster, some grew slower, some grew better, and there the quality of governance and the quality of leadership came in. So there is in a sense therefore the constant and the variable. There is a trend towards a more diverse multipolar world. But there is also, a period when countries really surge ahead. I mean, it's a bit like would happen in the corporate world as well. And that's what you are seeing. But do remember one thing. The older, the Western economies, the older industrialized economies, they have not gone away. They still count, they are still today prime investment targets. They are big markets. They are strong technology centers. They are hubs for innovation. So let's recognize the shift, but let's not get carried away and kind of overstate it.
Right.
And, distort our own understanding of the world.
Right. Thank you for that. Here's an interesting question. What's the one lesson from diplomats that you think business leaders need to learn?
Well, look, I think the real trick in diplomacy is to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. Not just in the shoes, actually in the
head.
In the head of the other person. That you train yourself. And that's, why do we learn a language? Why do we spend time, out of the country? Why do you fraternize? Why do you immerse yourself in other people's habits? Because ultimately you want to get in there. And if you can get in there, it's like, in a sense, the sports analogy. You're actually anticipating what the bowler is going to do because you are in the bowler's head. Or nowadays, from a Bumrah perspective, we're going to anticipate what a batsman is going to do because you're now in the batsman's head.
Right.
So, this to me is a very, very important skill. It takes time, lot of experience, and some natural talent.
True. You have to be like a sponge. You have to have empathy, I guess. And also, lot of the bookish stuff may not be reality, and you learn so much about culture and the way people think. Here's another question. How is PM Modi as a boss? Do you have early yearly appraisal sessions?
I have daily appraisal sessions. Look, I'd say, in a way, it's been for me pretty much, except for a year and a half, I was out of government, about 10 plus years continuously. In a way, I would say he's honestly a demanding boss, exacting boss. And I say that because he prepares, if you are discussing something, you have to come fully prepared. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to make your, argument or your case or whatever it is. You must stand your ground. You must have the data. So a second characteristic I would say is he's a very interactive boss. There are bosses who have made up their mind before you talk to them, or there are those who listen to you, give you a decision. His way of decision making is very much interactive. There is a certain
back and
forth out there. And I frankly, I say this in all honesty. I've enjoyed working with him because, he takes a call. he takes a call and then gives you that latitude. So say, for example, I'm giving you, let us say, the Ukraine. Okay. Once, he took a call that we need to get people out, do what it takes, use the Air Force, use the civil aviation, talk to people, tell me what I have to do. If I have to make a phone call, I will do that. If you have to send ministers out there to, but then he gives you that operational freedom. He will monitor it. He will want a feedback. Okay, it's not like he's not tracking you, but he's not micromanaging you. He's not second guessing you. Right. So in that sense, I've actually, frankly, enjoyed the experience of this job.
That's a beautiful answer and lots of takeaways from that. Here's a wonderful question. Given your father's distinguished career, what are some of the formative values and principles that he instilled in you, and also what you may have absorbed over the years?
Well, look, my father, for those who may not be familiar, was also working in the government. And he was again, he was a very, he was not a typical government bureaucrat. He had a particular set of jobs which had a certain public activity. So he used to write, he would speak. Even when he was in the government, he would press his point of view. So the one thing certainly I carried away from him is to be a believer. If a job, work is not something you do from 9 to 5. And it's not something where you do your bit and it's somebody else's problem after that.
Right.
Or you say in bureaucracy, it's not like the file left me and so he had a very strong beliefs on many issues. In those days, for example, the nuclear issue was very strong. A lot of it, he spent a lot of his time on defense-related issues. So if you have to learn to kind of fight for your beliefs and your policy, convictions. But at a personal level, I think, look, we were a very typical middle-class family with all the middle-class habits which came. And I think many of those are very good habits. You live within your means, you do many things yourself, you
reuse old cans.
Well, among other things,
My
yes.
family. Yes, sir. But we're so short on time, I'm going to pick the last question. What's the atmosphere like when you're in the middle of intense negotiations with other countries? And what would be a few tips on negotiating?
Look, we go back to the diplomacy business.
True.
I've also learned from people in business, I must tell you. I've seen some really perceptive. I even had a short stint in business, if you know, between my civil service and my political. It was my gap year, you
True.
can say. If I were to share a negotiating tip, it would be to study whoever you are meeting as exhaustively as you can and bond with them as quickly as you can, so that when the tricky issues come, they already begin to like you.
Right.
So if you are meeting someone, okay, I've actually picked up knowledge of sports, for example. Most people in the world, by the way, if you really want them to be nice, you want drop guard, do sports. I'm now talking my generation, okay? So do sports, maybe do, films, music, food.
Right.
So the more you study them, more data you have, and often you don't have, you wing it as you go along. But today you get a lot about people. You know a lot about people you never met. because the information is out there.
True.
So the more you can bond with them, then I find actually, you'll be surprised how many of our problems, sometimes you people say, okay, look, I really can't do it, but this one time I'm doing it for you.
Right.
And they do that because somewhere you have made that effort to make that one time difference.
Right. So beautiful. It's actually all about the human connection, isn't it? And empathy to the other. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, these wonderful chats and contributions. It's just always wonderful to hear you speak and have you here. Sir, I would request you to just step this way, because it is now my honor to invite Mrs. Rajshri Birla onto the stage to felicitate Dr. S. Jaishankar for his distinguished service and contribution. Mrs. Birla, who has a very long-standing commitment to education, philanthropy and social welfare, continues to inspire us all. And it is a privilege to have her present here. And I would request her to please grace the stage and offer a token of appreciation. I'll get it and I promise to return it. And also we're very, very excited and happy because I'm going to request you, sir, to stay back for just a minute more, because we also are so happy to have Mrs. Kyoko Jaishankar here today. And ma'am, thank you so much for being here. Request you to kindly also join us on stage. Thank you. Thank you for being here, ma'am. I would like to just take the small token of appreciation. Thank you. With that, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Birla, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and of course, Mrs. Jaishankar. Thank you for your valuable time. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you. So thank you all so much.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, things just keep getting bigger and better. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure, as I'm going to be calling someone incredibly special on stage. It is my great pleasure to introduce Professor
on this panel. Let me introduce you to all our panelists. Well, Shefali Garadia is the chairperson of Deloitte South Asia. Last year, in fact, marked a significant milestone, as this was the first time when a woman was to chair a Big Four firm in India. So thank you so much. We're proud to have you. We have with us Radhika Gupta, MD and CEO of Edelweiss Mutual Fund, and there cannot be a more compelling story than Radhika Gupta's transformational